In today's gospel reading, our Lord points out that before the tribulations of the end times occur, the authorities will arrest you and persecute you. And if we think about this, I think a question we ought to ask ourselves is, well, am I ready to face this persecution? Am I ready and willing to be arrested for my faith? And, try and imagine, the authorities come and they drag you out of your home and throw you in prison. What would that be like? We probably don't think about these kinds of things, but we should, because this is a reality. In other words, are we strong enough in our faith to face this reality if it should come during our lifetime? Now notice how our Lord in today's gospel reading goes on to say, you will be betrayed even by parents, by brothers and sisters, by relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your souls. So, you will be hated even by your own immediate family, by your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your relatives, your friends, and some they will even put to death. So not the authorities, but your friends, maybe even your family members will put you to death. And why? Why would we be so hated? It's very interesting. As Christians, we're fairly good people. At least we try to be. Yes, we all fall short, but we try to be good people. We accept people as they are. We even accept a lot of, ridicule of the Catholic Church, a lot of mockery of the Catholic Church. So often Catholic churches are damaged and, there's no big protest against it, whereas with other religions, it's like big news and people are protesting and complaining. But as Catholics, we just kind of turn the other cheek in many ways, just like our Lord tells us to. It's kind of a sign that we have the true faith. So why would they hate us? As Catholics, we're very generous. We give to many charitable organizations. We're willing to help others. We're willing to work with other groups of people. So why on earth would we be so hated? And there's a number of reasons, but I think part of it is that as Catholics, we stand for what the Catholic Church teaches, officially anyways. And being Catholic reminds others that this is what we stand for. So we oppose injustices in society. We oppose, abortion, same-sex marriage, transgenderism, and so many other things. Even the legalization of marijuana or drug use and things like that, premarital sex. So we can go on and on. So we oppose these things not because we think we're so much better than other people. We are sinners also, and many Catholics, commit some of these things and fall into some of these categories. But at least they are trying. At least those who practice their faith regularly, who come to church regularly, at least when we're not locked down. So it's not because we think we're so much better, but we do it out of charity because we recognize that these things cause harm to individuals and they cause harm to society. Sometimes people can't understand or see how these things are true, but they are. And, the one I like to mention is even in regards to pornography. What's really amazes me that even secular society, which allows and in many ways promotes pornography, acknowledges that pornography is very detrimental to an individual's well-being as well as their relationships with others. So when we look at the empirical evidence, it supports what we say. So I think this is one of the big reasons as to why we will be hated. But why will people be so much in disagreement to our position, even though we try to explain things rationally to them? And I think part of it is sometimes, people in the church, we're not very good at explaining things. I mean, some Catholics are, but most of us are not. Many of you are immigrants. Maybe your English is not that good. Maybe you didn't have as good of an education as your children today have. And sometimes your children will turn against you because they think they know it all. They think they know better. They look at us as being old-fashioned, superstitious, which we are not. Superstition is actually a sin. But they kind of believe what their professors, their teachers are telling them. They also believe what the media is telling them. And there's a lot of falsehood out there. It's very, very true that there's a lot of fake news out there, even in regards to the coronavirus. I get articles from different people, emails and videos, and some doctors are saying one thing, other doctors are saying the opposite. And some of the doctors who are saying good things, they're being shut down. They're being taken off YouTube and things like that. And these doctors aren't saying they're absolutely right. They're saying, well, we have different findings and we'd like to get together with the other doctors and discuss this. Let's bring it out into the open. But they're being shut down. They're not allowed to voice their opinions or their findings. In other words, it's kind of like scientific evidence is being swept under the rug. And this is not good. Same as in regards to the election in the US, I get information from different sources, and what the media is saying and what's actually really happening in regards to, questioning the outcome of the election. I mean, it's still yet to be determined, but people are saying, no, it's finalized, it's determined. There's been so many elections where the votes were contested, the results of the votes, and there's nothing wrong with contesting it. And there does seem to be a lot of evidence of fraud. And I believe that this needs to be brought out and brought to light, and to kind of determine who is really the winner, right? So the point is that we can easily be deceived. And a lot of young people, they just believe everything they're told by the media. They're also believing everything their peers stand for and tell them. I had mentioned on Sunday that we can never be our own God because we're so interdependent upon others that we will always belong to some group. But the reality is that we actually have a need, not just a need, but a desire to want to belong. So we should want to belong to God and to those who believe. But a lot of young people, they want to belong with their peers. So whatever their peers stand for, they go along with it. I sometimes wonder, there's so much opposition now to smoking, on the packages, horrible pictures of people who have cancer, and so much, things to try to discourage people from smoking, and young people still smoke. And why do they smoke? The reason is because their friends smoke. So if you hang around with a group of kids who smoke and you want to be part of that group, well, you're probably going to smoke yourself. And not just smoke, but do everything else that they do. So peer pressure is extremely great because of our desire to belong. We want to belong. And, I had mentioned earlier that as Catholics, or as the Catholic Church, we speak out against sin. And often when a person chooses to live a sinful lifestyle, especially if their peers are choosing to live a sinful lifestyle, we want to justify it. Whenever we sin, we love to justify it. I got angry because he pushed my buttons. It's his fault because he was rude to me. Well, even if he was rude to me, I'm the one who got angry. I have to acknowledge I am the one at fault. But we tend to do that. We tend to justify our sin. We want to rationalize our sin. We want to make it so that our sin is okay, that it's not really a sin. And so if you want to believe that, and your peers also want to believe that and share their views with you, then you want to belong to that group. And you want to oppose anyone and everyone who says something contrary. So you want to suppress the truth within yourself, within your own conscience, but you also want to suppress the truth amongst those who proclaim the truth, such as followers of our Lord, Catholics. So we will be persecuted, sometimes even by people very close to us, our own family members. Understanding this need to belong, I think it's good for us to consider it and to commit ever more fully to belonging to the Church of Jesus Christ. We might say, well, the Catholics I know, they're not that good. Well, okay, none of us are as good as we should be. So you may not want to belong to that group, but you should want to belong to Jesus Christ. And the other thing that I would say is that I definitely want to belong to the Catholics who have gone before us, and in particular, the great saints. I want to belong to the same group that Mother Teresa of Calcutta belonged to, that Saint Therese of Lisieux belonged to, Saint Andre Bessette, Saint Padre Pio belonged to, Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint Anthony of Padua. I want to belong to that group, Saint Maximilian Kolbe. We can go on, right? I want to belong to that group. And this is one of the reasons why many spiritual authors encourage us to read the lives of the saints. You know, there's a saying that a good book is a good friend. And when we read about a saint, we're not reading fiction. We're reading about their actual lives, often their martyrdoms, and we make a friend in heaven, a friend that we can call upon because spiritually we are not separated from them. So today we celebrate the feast of St. Catherine of Alexandria. She died around the year 310. She was martyred for the faith, hence the red vestments. She was an extremely intelligent young lady. For this reason, she is the patron saint of librarians, students, jurists, and people who deal with legal things. She's the patron saint of a number of things. I can't remember all of them. But she became a Christian at the age of 18, and she criticized the emperor because of his persecution of Christians. She was trying to defend them, and she was using intellectual means to try to defend them. And for this, she was imprisoned, and they tried to get her to change her position, but she would not. So note that she was persecuted, she was imprisoned, which is Christ is telling us in today's gospel reading that before the end times, this is going to happen to us. And we need to be willing to face this reality in the same way that Saint Catherine of Alexandria was willing to face this reality. While she was in prison, the empress, the wife of the emperor, came to visit her. So too did the leader of the Roman army, and they both tried to convince her to change her mind because they respected her because she was such an intelligent person. But she ended up converting them. Imagine that. She converted them, and as a result, all three of them were martyred. She was tortured before being martyred, and she was placed on a wheel with spikes on it. And that's why she's also the patron saint of anything that has to do with wheels, such as those who make clay pots, the wheel that turns around, things like that. She was eventually martyred after her tortures. She was martyred by having her head cut off. So she was beheaded. So I look to St. Catherine of Alexandria as an inspiration, as a wonderful example, as a great saint, a great martyr, but also as a great friend, someone that I can call upon to help me in times of persecution, in times of difficulty, and I hope to be able to convert others the way that she has. As you know, I very strongly encourage all of us to try to do what we can to spread the faith while we still can, before we're imprisoned, before we're severely persecuted, while people are still willing to be open to the truth. In our parish, one of the things that we are planning to do come January, we'll actually start on January the 19th, is we're going to be running an Alpha program. And Alpha is just a basic introduction to Christianity. It's not really for Catholics who are practicing their faith. So those of you who are watching this video, it's probably not for you. But maybe you know someone who's away from the faith, maybe someone who's an atheist. This Alpha program is for them. We're going to be running it online, and basically Alpha hopefully answers the questions, the basic questions that we have about life and the meaning of life and what is life all about. So it's a wonderful program, and I'm looking forward to running it. One of our parishioners will be running it actually, and I'm just kind of in the sidelines looking on and giving my advice, but yeah, maybe you know someone. So start thinking about it and start praying for that individual right now. And when the time comes, maybe you can encourage that individual to sign up for the Alpha program, which will be starting on January the 19th.